This is a special announcement. We are heading to RSA conference in San Francisco for our 11th years of coverage, April 28th, May 1st.
And as always, we'll bring you keynotes, conversations with organizers, speakers, industry leaders, plus the latest insights from the world of cybersecurity.
And we'll reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and of course, we want you and your company to join us.
We have a few spots left for full sponsorship and our on-location briefings. You can book yours now at itspmagazine.com/RSAC.
We're going.
And you're coming with us. You coming on or what? What's going on?
I am randomly on.
He's just decided to show up.
I'm randomly showing up in a very unscripted manner.
I found a hat I forgot I had.
Oh,
So
is
I
that a
decided to
hat?
wear
I thought it was a spaceship that you had.
it's a pretty large hat.
Where did you get? It looks like an Australian.
It looks like an Australian hat.
Is it?
I don't know. I think it's a travel hat.
You don't know where you got it?
I know where I got it, but I'm not going to tell that story.
No?
It's a secret story.
Okay.
I'm in New York. It's here in New York with me, and I don't travel with hats. So it came from New York.
There you go. It's good enough. Good enough. So have we been going
prevalent
without...
in New York, you know.
What is that?
These hats are very prevalent in New York.
Oh, it's so New Yorker. Okay. As soon as I saw it, I was like, shit, that's so New York of you.
Yeah, you must be in New York wearing that hat.
Yeah. So Yankee of you.
It is.
So did we skip last week?
We were busy last week, man.
You were busy.
So were you.
I were busy pretending to be busy.
Well, we did finish, and then I took off for a little break.
We said we were going to record before.
I left you hanging. I left you hanging. I went to Tampa.
Tell me about Tampa.
Cool. Tampa was fun. Got to see a good friend of mine, and I hadn't seen him in a while. Fellow musician. We love music, so we got to screw around with some keyboards and listen to each other's tracks that we put down and just catch up. It was really nice. He and his wife, we had some nice dinners. Got to explore the area. Got to see the.
Yeah, well, you have friends Tampa. Everywhere we go. Everywhere we go for on location. You're like, I'm just gonna stay a couple more days because I have a body here. And then there is me. I have you and a couple more friends, and then I have a lot of invisible friends.
I know this. They're all in your head.
Oh, they're all in my freaking head.
And they all have their own stories, I'm sure.
It's full of ghosts and cats and crazy things like inanimated object that talks and I think it comes from the family. I think I inherited from my mom.
From what I know, crazy. I would agree.
We're both crazy.
Creative, maybe. It might be a different CR word you could throw in there, but.
I know. I think you need to be a little bit crazy to be creative.
I agree with that.
In everything you do, even music.
I think music, acting, art, something in the mind that looks at things.
Something is off, right? I mean, acting. Look at that. You're just just pretending to be someone else.
Yeah, I really like it when there's a lot of creativity in engineering. When they're designing that bridge, let's go a little wacky there. No. I think we want those to be a little more precise.
It's a different side of the brain, as they say. But I think many people then ended up using both. I know.
Well, look at some of the buildings here in New York. I mean, there's a lot of clearly engineering safe, but creatively designed buildings. You might think, well, why are they bigger on top than the bottom? Why is it open on the bottom? It's all glass.
I have a story about that. I need to verify it, but I think I saw it on Instagram. And I know this is not what we planned to talk about, but that's whatever. We're random, so who cares?
It is random.
The shape of the building in London, all the tall building,
the bullet one?
Kind of wacko. They're all wackos, right?
They're all wackos.
Well, apparently, yeah. I mean, they're weird looking. The bullets and the shards and all of that. There was a rule I'm going to say at the end of the 1800, where they couldn't obstruct the view of the St. Paul Cathedral from everywhere.
Ah,
You had to see the St. Paul Cathedral. And I think that that rule, that planning, urbanistic planning still exists. And
I remember you mentioning that when we were there.
well, yeah, and I found out something the other day, and I want to see if it's true, but I think it is because you need to always see St. Paul Cathedral, which we did see many times. We even had some ravioli there.
We did have that was good ravioli,
Oh, dude, next year?
right?
Well, next year, in a few months,
A few
we're there.
months. I found another place that's a hidden under the bridge.
Ah, yeah.
What was it? A whiskey bar? I think it was,
Ah, a pub.
or just a pub in general. Yeah,
Pub with a view of the belly of
the
the
belly of
Tower
the.
Bridge. And
Yes,
yes, we're definitely going to go there.
definitely.
Anyway,
Yes. So I'm going to go back to these characters
to the
and
crazy.
well, the yeah, what you think about and maybe well, let's talk about the creativity in the family. Let's go back to your grandfather was a maestro, right?
Yeah, well, I never got to meet him, but yeah, he was a music
Well, that's
teacher.
a bummer, but I mean, clearly creative, creative mind
I
at
don't
that
think
root
he was
there.
much of a composer um, at the time, although he was a maestro, like music. He was a teacher, like singing, and used to play the piano, teaching the piano, and used to play the organ in the Dome of Florence and other churches in Florence. So I think that may be why whenever I get into a church,
Hmm.
I just always I walk in and then I turn around because usually that's where the organ is,
Yes.
and I look up. And in my last trip that we were in North Europe, I've seen some crazy beautiful organ, and few times you're lucky enough that there, even if there is not the church function, there is somebody there playing at it, and I don't know, it's changed the whole. It's pretty magical. But yeah,
It is magical.
that was him. But my dad didn't learn anything in terms of music. Um, my mom, she one day she decided that she was very creative, and at the young age of
It started to come
75,
out.
she started
75.
writing crazy
Yeah.
stories. Yeah, something like that, like a couple of
What
years
prompted
ago.
that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's a story. So we were talking about one of my grandfathers, the other of the two, that my mom's dad, that they all together they had like a grocery store in this small town near Florence, and that's back in the 60s and 70s, and that's where I grew up pretty much. The whole family just they all work there, and I and my mom
Including
one,
you, right?
including me.
Including
Yeah,
you.
I was getting paid for uh, during the holiday to help and package stuff and all of that. But even when I was a very little kid, I was just at the cash register with either my grandmother or whatever. I think that's why I'm very comfortable with people in general. But so the story is that my mom was reading an article about how all the small shop they were all closing in the small town because there is always a supermarket that takes over, and she was kind of pissed about it because her memories and how life used to be, and you will see the same people every day coming and buy the bread and the stuff that they need, and you will know them, right? You will know what their preference was in the cut of the cheese or of the prosciutto or whatever, the ham, and I mean you become family in a way with them, and they all live in that neighborhood because then in the next neighborhood there is another grocery store or another bar or another vegetable guy or butcher or whatever it is. And so she was very pissed about it. And I said, you know what? You have all these stories. Why don't you write them down? Like this memory that you have with about the store. So she said, well, I'm just not just write some memories, but I'm gonna write some story that have a moral that things that would happen in the store and why they were important for the neighborhood. So she started writing those, and they were kind of cute, and there were kids in there, and like there was a story of a kid that the owner of the store find out that there was a finger in the Nutella, the Nutella, the chocolate. So, and then it
I know it
was
all too well.
covered, and then it was covered again. But the owner of the store figured out that it was now sealed, and then he saw a finger, and then he talked to the kids, and he said, "Hey, if you told me, I would have give it to you on a slice of bread or something." And I don't know, it was really cute. And I said to my mom, "I didn't know you could write this fantasy story," because they started getting a little interesting, like windows for Christmas. They would talk one to another on how pretty they were. One was prettier than the other, and the Christmas tree was part of it, and all the decor. And from there, I said, "Why don't you just write kids stories for kids?" And I would take AI. I would help translating them in English and from Italian, and then we get AI to read it. So we do a podcast where either kids or parents that they enjoy, or the young at heart, they can do that. And so she started writing, and I find myself to have another job that I'm not paid for because I'm helping her, and I'm having a lot of fun, actually. So we have more than 20 stories, and they're called Storie sotto le stelle. They are in English and in Italian, and they're pretty crazy. Animals that talk, and shoes that goes on an adventure.
Right.
And it's pretty nuts. I tell my mom, like, I don't know, like, now I know why I'm like the way I am. Like, like.
The reason you think the way you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, balloons. Much. I think there was a balloon one too, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can see. I remember when I was there, I spent a little time, and I remember her going out to the garden and working on it a little bit while I was there, and I could sense or feel a sense of feeling of joy, however you want to put it. But it certainly a fulfillment, right? She's getting something from sharing these stories with children. I really like that it's in Italian and English, because you can listen to one and listen to the other, and kind of go back and forth. So kids whose first language is English can maybe pick up the story in Italian. Was there a reason to do it in that way, two languages?
Well, actually, funny story. The first idea, I got a little overexcited about ChatGPT a year and a half ago, and I decided to have translation and read in, I think it was 6 different stories, languages, every single story. It was like in Chinese, in Japanese, in French, in Spanish. And then again, talking about having a job that I don't get paid for until I found sponsors. By the way, if somebody want to sponsor the Stories of the Stella, you can talk to me. And it was too much. But the other thing was that I couldn't tell when ChatGPT was going nuts, or if the translation and the reading there was the way I intended and the way my mom intended. Because my mom comes out with the idea, I take it, I kind of bring it to, I don't know, I put a little bit of my own, but mostly I kind of edit, like the editor. And I can do that with English. I can do that with Spanish and maybe French. But I was like, this is too much work. But English, I can certainly do that, and Italian. So I said, it's going to be 2, but it's going to be done correctly. And I feel the English, many times, the English speaking, many times they want to learn Italian. So it's something that the grandparents and the parents want to do. And the Italians wants to learn English. So I published them in those 2. But it was kind of funny trying to listen to those in Japanese and not having a single idea what it was.
Right.
Like,
an appreciation for it, but no way to verify.
I was excited. I'm like, oh my God, I can reach every single one around the world with this. And then, you can realize that sometimes there's a little bit of hallucination there. And most of the hallucination, you know how it is. We use ChatGPT a lot, and is to change things. Especially, you need to be very strict and say, "Hey, only fix
Mm.
grammar error," and then you read it, and then, oh, you didn't do that. You actually change a lot of stuff. So now when I do that, I have to say, I want a list of all the things that you change it,
Mm.
so that I can verify that it wasn't changed more than what I wanted to.
So you talked about being a little crazy. I call it creative. But
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you say countless times, and I think we've even talked about it, that some of the best stories follow a model or framework. And
Mm.
I think you referenced Disney many times when you
Mm-hmm.
when you make this comment that their stories have a certain way of getting getting the starting going, knowing what the ending is going to be, and taking you on a journey
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they figured out will keep people interested and leave them feeling a certain way at the end. Um, do you know if your mom has a model that she follows, or is everything just kind of as it comes?
Okay, so I agree with you. All you said. I think the movies as well. They follow a
Yeah, yeah,
certain. I mean, not all of them. Some are very out there, but in general, the story. I mean, Disney is definitely somebody, and Pixar, that they follow that the rule because it works, right? Um, my mom followed no rules, and that's why it's fun for me. The first draft. So there are some writers. They said the first draft of anything is usually shit. I disagree, but it's definitely not, you know, the one that you want to publish. That's for sure. It makes it easy in this case because they're short stories, so they go between 700 and maybe 1,300 words. So, when you listen to it, it's 10, 12 minutes, 8 minutes of reading. It's not overwhelming. But no, she just open her brain and and just come up with. There is a beginning and an end, and it's all based on a moral. Like kids' story, they need a moral. That's
right.
how kids used to. I think they still do learn. Don't go in the wood because Little Red Riding Hood. She get
The wolf and
she
bears and
she get almost eaten by the wolf, and it's dangerous out there. And the Green Brothers and all those people that write stories at the time, they're not as pretty as Disney translated them. They were pretty gruesome. Even Pinocchio, which is the most read the most read book in the world after the Bible, I believe, um, it's pretty heavy. Then you
hmm
watch the Disney movie and it's kind of cute and stuff, but
right.
it's pretty.
Hansel and Gretel, I think, was another
Yeah,
pretty
Hansel and
dark one.
Gretel and all that. But my mom, so she put the moral, but she create this crazy world out there. And my job is to say, all right, this is great, but this is another story. Kind of like
Mm,
maybe too many things because she just pour her creativity, and there is
right.
again weird character, magic, enchanted planets, where everybody's flying, or a crazy bicycle race with out of control things. And then she listened to me talk about robotics and
Mm,
technology all the time. So she wrote one about an observatory on a hill that is all full of robots, and there is an AI in it. But she connects the traditional things that she grew up with. Sometimes it's the food, sometimes it's the simple lifestyle in the little town, with some magic or elements. But it's
mm,
all grounded in her being from Tuscany, and also my dad kind of working with her on some ideas where he's very attached to Florence. So that there's always a touch of Tuscan life in there,
right.
traditional, right?
Mm,
And so, and it is driven by this idea of wanted to entertain, but also kind of educate the reader, the young reader,
yeah.
into something important in life.
So you started answering. I don't think that's the full answer, but I was wondering if there was a things that trigger an idea for her. So you mentioned you talking about
Anything.
AI and robotics, but I know some of the stories are connected to holidays. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Halloween and Christmas, I think, a couple of them.
Halloween, I pushed her to do the Halloween. That's probably more my story than her.
I
But
thought maybe that might be the case.
yeah.
But so is it triggers memories as a kid, or news of the day, or a conversation she had, all the above? I don't know.
Something she does,
Yeah.
and she's like, hey, I can write a story about this. So we published about 20 stories, I think, now, which require quite some work because there's editing, re-editing, there is translating, there is doing the podcast and the cover and all of that. So I think there is at least 35 or 40 in the waiting list, because she just got an idea and I'm like, all right, you keep drafting this stuff and we'll see when we get there. But it's everything. Like I don't know, maybe she goes in the garden and she picks up like a lemon and says,
I was going to ask if the
like,
garden was an inspiration.
oh yeah, she writes a lot of stuff about vegetables that interact with each other. Or there is one about the enchanted roses in the castle. So there is this roses and all this. Actually, you're right. There is a lot of garden elements. I never thought about it, but there's roses that interact with each other, that they gang together with fireflies, and they go to discover this abandoned castle, and then they find a library in there, and that there is a guardian, sometimes maybe it's because she's just cutting a rose in the garden. She'll go to the vegetable store and maybe she thinks like, hey, I can make these two tomatoes talk to each other about something. And then they go on an adventure. Everything pretty much treat this. And my dad is like, uh-oh, here goes another one. And well, it's so much fun.
Talk about that. What are his thoughts on this? Does he get involved? Does he enjoy reading them? Does he, I don't know, does he keep it separate?
He reads it because, when you're married, you have to do stuff, right? So, no, he enjoys it.
I presume he enjoys them.
He enjoys it. My mom, she found a new reason after, they retired, and, they do their life. They have friends, and, they cook and they spend time in the garden, but she gets up in the morning and she call it work. When she writes, she's a real writer. She knows that she has to write and she wants to write. That's what gets her going in the morning. I'm going to do the chores and I'm going to do the things I need to do, because then I can have those hour to write something. So she's really moved by that. My dad, so he's some kind of an editor. He contributes some ideas. He doesn't read fantasy. He doesn't watch cartoons the way I do obsessively. But he participates. He's happy that she's doing that, but he's not the writer of that. But you can tell when he gets in there.
Yeah.
I can tell. I've known them all my life. So
you can spot it.
That is just magic. And honestly, it's just amazing. I talk to them every day. I've always done that. And you know that. It's like, hey, it's breakfast time and time to talk to my parents. And I would say that in the last year and a half that we've been doing this, it usually goes into, what did you write today? Or, when are we publishing the next stories? Or here's an idea. It's nice. It's like something that we have going on together. It's really cool. And people like it. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no question about that. I want to know, she didn't set out on a journey to write X number of short stories, I don't think.
Nope.
Doesn't seem like it.
But we want to publish a little book.
That was my question. Do you see something beyond the podcasts and the books in written digital form? Do you see something beyond that?
Yeah, I've looked into doing my own print of the book. I was thinking maybe to pick like 10 stories. Like I said, they are about, on average 8,000 words. So it's they're not that long, but
Right.
with a cover, I wouldn't go for illustration, although I do like the idea. But they're not for young kids. I mean, the book for young kids is very simple, few words. I mean, it's not for the 5 years old. This is more like 8
Even
to
if the
12.
parents read it to them, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if the parents read it, it could be for the youngest one, for like 6 or 7. Sure. I mean, we try to keep it simple, but
Right.
I think there's a pleasure in reading those, even if you are, or listening to those, even if you're 60 or 50 or 40. As long as you like that kind of story, there is some magic, and there's always some moment that makes you laugh. There is a weird dialogue going on. Usually it's kind of, the funny moment. Maybe there is the bears that are coming crazy down on a sled in the wood for Christmas, while the protagonist is going to visit Santa Claus in the North Pole, and they crash, and there's a crazy moment of funny things. So I think it's funny for everyone, to be honest. But yeah. So the book would be
Obviously
kind of
different
cool.
eras and different geography, but I can imagine a lot of people connecting with a feeling as a child they can think back to, or an experience. Like maybe it's a different set of woods or a different garden scene that they're picturing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can probably grasp and feel it too.
And if you know me, and you know that I always try to bring a sense of inclusivity and diversity and welcoming to different experiences. But the lesson is that everybody should just do whatever it feels like doing. If there is one rabbit that decide one day to become a chef, and you start cooking, and there is another one that is a crazy cat that he goes to school in a class of cats that it's just crazy in a way that he'd like to do things the way he wants, and he wears 6 scarves of different colors, and and he just jump around, and but then in the end is, again, there is a moral where people thought he was crazy, but it's just different, and people should accept it for who he is. So it's kind of cool to elaborate on that, and I think that's why they're good stories for everybody. So I would like to make the book. The day I have the time to do
That's
that.
exciting. I'd be thrilled to see that happen. And I mean, we all know we need a bit of more moral injection.
Some ethics
and injected into our youth. So yeah, it's super cool to see how much has been done. I remember the first few stories, and you starting to get everything set up, and your mom's excitement to get the first few out, and no lack of passion, no lack of drive, no end in sight from what I can see.
No lack of ideas. If anything, there's too many. It's just about finding the time to make it happen, and it did inspire me to. I mean, I've always liked writing, but it did inspire me to actually get and write my own story, which may be just a short story. And maybe I enjoy doing it for kids, so maybe I'll just give my own spin to it, which will be kind of fun. It's a creative aspect that you need in your life. Either it's music, or it's writing, or it's even gardening. Whatever.
Yeah, or engineering.
Arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts, absolutely.
I mean, look at this background. Does it get more creative than the background that we have here?
I don't think it does.
Watching the video?
It's pretty wild.
Very crazy.
It's random for sure.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's super inspiring. I'm not a writer, so I'm in awe when I can see people
you write
create.
As a journalist.
Well, I write as a journalist. I'm not a creative writer in terms of fantasy.
Dude, when you do your newsletter.
I know you're going to try to So yeah, some of them are fun, but
Yeah.
it's not, that doesn't come natural to me. I have to
You're
focus on it.
forcing it.
Yeah. When it's clearly something natural for you and your mom. Music, on the other hand, just random stuff comes out of me that I'm like,
Hey.
I enjoy that. I'll
So,
put it on the loop and listen to it a few times
mm-hmm.
as I'm sitting here cooking or whatever. So I like the stuff that I create in that sense. The writing for me, not so much. So I'm always in awe when there's somebody who can write and produce good things, and
For me, it's
love
all
it
about
for what it is
storytelling,
too.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that also justify and explain
Mm.
how, beside cybersecurity, technology, and society, you picked to have a podcast that we discussed on the first event of the first episode of Unscripted and Random and Unscripted, which is about technology and music, but mostly it's music. So that's you. I mean, I love
Yeah.
music too, but
Yeah.
you're more of a musician. And mine is all audio signal, is all about storytelling and stories, and I talk to people that do that for a living or for a passion,
Yeah.
and I think that goes to show you, like, if I have 2 hours, that's probably what I'm gonna pick. Writing, and playing music too. So,
For me, it's if there's a string or a key
mm-hmm.
or something to tap. That's what I'm doing. But
Yep. And that's
super
the
fun.
moral of the story. Like, it's that everybody listening right now is to find out what that what the inspiration is, and get up in the morning beside working. I mean, in Japanese they call it the hikigai, which is your meaning of your reason to live, and it could be to take care of a relative. It would be like to grow your kids and volunteers or wherever it is. If one of that is do something creative, I think that's the moral, is that it's never too late. My mom's I didn't even know she could write that like that until she was well in her 70s.
Yeah.
So
Such a cool story.
never too late. That's the
That's a cool
story.
story. So, of course, people listening and watching this will include a link to the website and to the
Yeah.
podcast, obviously. So
Yeah.
you can all check it out.
Duh.
Listen to a few stories, read them to your kids, let your kids listen to them.
Yeah.
Who knows? If you don't speak Italian, maybe I should try to learn Italian too.
Honestly, listen to both. If it's 8 minutes each, I think it's really interesting, like to listen even the different intonation, and you'll recognize few words, especially on both direction. I think the Italian would definitely pick a lot of the English part, and the English will probably hear some familiar name. So why not? It's a good way to learn the language too.
Exactly.
Well, that was random
It was random.
and was definitely unscripted.
It's certainly that too. And yeah, somehow we ended up on that from buildings in New York. Look at that.
That's the beauty of it.
It is
Maybe
a
I need
beauty.
to write a story about New York. I'll tell
Maybe you
my
do.
mom. She's
Maybe you
been
do.
in New York, so all it takes is for me to tell her, "Hey, write a story about New York.
Yeah.
You're gonna have it. I'm gonna have it, and then I have to deal with it." So
maybe it's about the marathon. I don't know.
maybe,
Maybe
maybe.
it's not a people marathon. I don't know.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
re- request,
That's right.
and maybe you'll get your own
Yeah,
story. Why not?
maybe.
Give her an
Uh,
idea. You'll
yeah.
you'll get it. I'm sure
All right.
you will. Well,
Thanks, my
that was
man.
fun, Sean.
I'm super proud of both of you, and I love seeing the creativity and the results of it. And I hope other people enjoy it too. I mean, it's super fun. So
Yep, and I hope they enjoy our conversations on Random and Unscripted podcast. Share it, and we'll come back. It's kind of like something I'd honestly like to do on a Friday if we can. I like to publish it on a weekend because it's not about nothing like scary. It's a very much of a tradition that I think we're creating, which is really good for us as friends, and I think it's very good, honestly, awfully for people listen to something that doesn't have to be bad news all the time or something that we have to worry about. It's more about getting excited about life, which it matters.
And I get to wear a funny hat.
You get to wear a stupid hat. There you
go. Which at some point, I know I keep saying it, but at some point I'll run out of hats, but we'll see.
I'll start again.
Yeah, we'll start again.
Yeah, start again.
Get a new collection. All right.
All right.
Well, thanks, everybody. We'll wrap this up here as Random and Unscripted with Sean and Marco.
Yep. And, check the notes. There'll be the link. Let me know what you think about the stories. I would really appreciate the feedback.
Make your requests there.
No, please. I'll make you pay. Yeah, I'll write on demand, but
there are some interesting business models out there for that.
Hey, it's called advertising.
I've seen one.
I did start it as a copywriter. You know that, so.
I think what did I see? It's on Shark Tank. Draw a cat for me or something, or draw my cat or something. So this has even a little more legitimacy to it than draw my cat.
Yep, so I'm not gonna draw
request a story. No, request a story.
Well,
all right. Well, thanks everybody. See you.
Take care. Sean.
Marco.
We are here to deliver a message from the RSA Conference team.
It's an important message from our friends. RSA Conference 2025, just around the corner, where insights drive action, solutions emerge, and community connections spark innovation. You'll be there. I'll be there. We invite everybody else to be there April 28th through May 1st. You can secure your spot at rsaconference.com/ITSPMAG25. That's ITSPMAG25. See you all there.
I'll be there. See you there.